Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about spawn camping. This is a topic I am really interested in. I'm actually really surprised I haven't done a video on this yet. My team that I was part of a long time ago, Third Impact, we would essentially, we were known for our brawl and we would spawn camp quite a lot. So I'm really excited for this video. I hope you guys learn a lot, and let's just go straight into it. So first, what type of spawn camp, what type of compositions can we sort of run when we're thinking spawn camping? Well, obviously Brawl is sort of, very simple, and that's what most people think about. So normally you look at like Ryan-based Brawl, Ryan, Diva, or Sigma. Talk about when either. You look at Mei normally to help with chokes. Then you can look at Cass, Hanzo, maybe Reaper if you really want to commit, but those are sort of the big ones, maybe Ashe too. Then you look at Lucio, and you look at Bap. So normally when you're looking at like Sigma is when you want to play slower. You're thinking the enemy team might run a double shield, or maybe they're gonna run a brawl, and you're not too worried about getting angled on by maybe like a bunch of flankers or snipers. Sigma does really well into other brawl-based compositions because of its area effect damage. Diva does obviously better in dealing with flankers as well as verticality, whereas Sigma does not. Cass, Hanzo, Ashe, that really depends on how aggressive you're planning on being, or if you want to play more distance. Hanzo, you're going to get a lot of one-tap potential, but it's also burst through Storm Arrow, but it's a bit better for distance and a bit slower, whereas Cass, you can sort of like hardcore brawl with the team and be more aggressive, as well as still goes for slide off angles. Likewise is sort of Ashe. Lucio Bap's the same. The other option is double shield. So Orisa, Sigma, Mei, Cass, and you can still run the same type of DPS, I'd say.
Oh shit, here we go again.
And then Bap, Brig. Obviously the issue with this composition is that you don't have speed, so it really plays for a lot of setups and holding close and looking to sort of pinch the enemy team. Orisa and like the company of Orisa coming in and Sigma coming in and sort of pinching in. And if you're more interested in how to play double shield based comps, you can check out my double shield videos on my channel. But this works really well. It's obviously very rough to retake space because you don't have speed and it's hard to close distance, but it is a very strong base composition, and if you're normally able to live an initial engage from a Reinhardt and not have your Orisa fortify like instantly, normally you'll be able to get a lot more value because Bap Briggs heals is nuts, plus also rallies insane, and normally building Flux from Sigma, you'll build it really fast because that makes you stacked and you can get a lot of value with Flux because you'll probably basically build it faster than Beat normally. So these are sort of two compositions we'll talk about later, a little bit later, sort of how to like position, using Rhine-based brawl comps. But before we go into that, let's talk about why spawn camping exists. So I think this is like one of the most, I think it's a little misunderstood. A lot of people when I talk spawn camping, they're like, oh, it's because we get multiple fights on first. And because we get multiple fights, that makes this really good. We're, taking a lot of time from the enemy. And because of that, like, this is just great. And that's not wrong. It's right, but it's not the full story, right? The reason why spawn camping is good, and why it exists, is because you have an inherent advantage the first fight that will help you win the first fight, and then because you win the first fight, that will give you an inherent ult advantage to help you win the next few fights, right? Which then, obviously, if you're able to get 3 fights on first on maps like Havana or Rialto, and we'll talk about Havana in a bit, then that's just really good for you. So it's because of essentially good chokes.
So what did the buffalo say when his son left? Bye, son.
So looking at good chokes and good kill boxes. And we'll talk about kill boxes too. An example of that is Route 66 first point. But because of good chokes and good kill boxes, that allows you to spawn camp. It gives you more value because you can win the first fight, which then win the first fight, like I said, you can win multiple fights after, ult advantage. Then hopefully if you do lose, the next fight you might lose, but the fight after that on the third fight on first, hopefully you win that. So that's the multiple fights, right? If you have a good setup, and you get value out of that. So that's sort of what, why spawn camping exists. Let's sort of look into how to spawn camp. So let's sort of look this example first. First, we're going to talk about basic brawl and go over some just general basics. So one of the biggest things I think to understand first is understanding what your role is and sort of where you are part of the team. If you look at this, you have your Ryan, Lucio, Cass, and Bap together. They're sort of your core. You have your D.Va, who is scouting and dealing with off-angle or flankers. In this situation, every team has a Hanzo, so your D.Va will be played to mark that Hanzo, and maybe other people. The D.Va could be, enemy D.Va could be the Hanzo too. And your Mei is in a position where your Mei can essentially wall off the chokes for your team to push. So one of the choke here, there's also sort of a choke here, and there's obviously choke there. And Mulvies come out of spawn. So because your Mei is able to position in this place, your Mei is able to actually inherently wall off these two areas, and your D.Va is able to deny the other area. So if you just think about this at a high level, your Mei is denying 2 out of the 3, and your D.Va is denying the other 1. When you're thinking about spawn camping, it's really important that when you're holding close, that you're able to cover most of the ways that the enemy team is able to go out, or if not able like cover with Mei walls, you're able to at least soft deny it with somebody else. So here, what'll end up happening is the enemy team pushes out here. Mei could wall right really close. For that to happen, Ryan would have to be really close. If Ryan's not able to get close, then Mei might wait a little bit and look to wall maybe on this car, or something around here, maybe like over there or something. But more so what I'm getting at is this concept of this Mei is able to cover both these chokes, and when this enemy team pushes out, and then Mei looks for a wall, the enemy flankers might push out too. So the D.Va Hanzo might, and when that happens, your D.Va's job is to soft deny this. So your D.Va will take in this situation a 1v2, and your D.Va may not win that, but the job is just to soft deny and hold it for as long as possible. Bap can throw some heals here and there, and while that's happening, it's your Ryan's job to push in and take this essentially 5v4 and win that. Maybe sometimes it might be a 5v5, but regardless, whatever it is, it's your core's job to sort of get that value. It's also very important that, again, your Mei's at an off angle, doesn't get cryo force or waste wall, because that's your initiation tool. Your Cass is at a slight off angle as well, so that when your Ryan actually forces that brawl, your Reinhardt isn't taking, it's only really your Reinhardt taking damage. Your Cass isn't taking damage. Your Mei hopefully isn't taking a lot of damage. Your Lucio is chilling, looking to try and look to pressure the backline and look to get valuable damage. And your Bap is also further back. So like I said, your Ash, when he's on this off angles, he's looking for sort of picks on maybe like the Bap or Mei, and maybe look to pressure the Reinhardt, but he's normally looking for picks. And then, like I said, the Ryan, Mei, Bap are looking to push the core. Lucio's helping with that, or sometimes also helping the Cass take angles to look for value. So, one of the other things I want to mention here, because I think it's just right over here, is we're going to skip to this concept of when you're playing into a non-mare now. So if you're playing into a non-mare, how this would look is it'd be a little bit different, right? You essentially wouldn't see, let's get rid of the Reinhardt here, let's pretend there's a ball tracer. The ball tracer would be looking to go behind. When this happens, Lucio is going to have to look to mark the ball tracer. The enemy team still could have a Hanzo. They still could have this composition. Maybe Lucio would be a Brig, let's say. So the D.Va would still have to mark the Hanzo, but now the ball tracer is behind as well. So Lucio's going to have to soft mark, probably the ball. And then the Bap's also going to have to watch that as well, while the rest of these people are going to have to, when they push forward here, they're going to have to, still watch behind, mainly the Lucio and Bap, I'd say. Oops, there we go. So they'll be walking forward, but if these guys do come in, Lucio's looking to sort of soft deny and boop it. So it's still really important that your Lucio is denying flankers, as well as if your Bap's not worried about, healing the Reinhardt, your Bap's looking to shoot the ball tracer out and force them out, so it's easier for your Ryan to run over the enemy team. So that's an important fact. One other thing I sort of want to mention, and we're sort of going to move down here, I'd say. So one thing else that I think is crucial, and so people don't think too much about spawn camping, is actually the retakes. Most maps which you have really good spawn camps, you actually have really, really, really nice retakes. So for instance here, you can retake and you can go like this, and you can take the high ground, which is just inherently advantageous because you can look to flip the map and get on their backline, or you can approach it like this. What I will say is be a little careful. Some teams who are really smart might look to hide their Mei right over here, look to early wall you, and then push you and split you up, so that your team sort of got some of your teams in here, some of your teams in here, and then the enemy team will push with 5 people into your 3, and you'll sort of lose. So that's something to be a bit aware of, but it's good scouting with your D.Va. You can watch that. So just keep in mind when you're fighting on this first fight over here, don't freak out if you lose. Right, your job here is to win the first fight, then the second fight, then hopefully the third fight. Then after that, the enemy team is probably going to have an inherent ult advantage. So you're probably going to lose. Then you're going to retake here. And when you retake here, you might lose this too because the enemy team still might have an ult advantage. But that next fight, that'll happen right over here. This is the fight you want to look to win. Because now hopefully you'll have an ult advantage. And the longer you force these fights and these fights, which means that they'll be forced to use more ultimates and you'll be building your ultimates, is good for you. As well as also understanding what positive ult trades are so that you're not using valuable ultimates, but you're forcing them to use more valuable ultimates is also important. And if you're not sure what that is, you can check out what I think I have a video on ult trading. Okay, so let's look at another thing here. So we sort of talked about good chokes. We talked a little bit about playing into non-mirror. Let's look at good kill boxes. So this is an example of chokes. Like I said, you're sort of pushing the spawn chokes. Fun fact, on second point, you can also hold spawn. Those are the only two exits. You could hold right over here, put your Mei here, wall both areas. Your core could play, low ground if you could play high ground if you wanted, and then just go from there. Same likewise, also on third point, you can do it too. Only two ways, right? Your Mei could play like over here if you don't want your Mei to play close and still get the walls, get value. So we talked about holding chokes. Now there's something called a kill box, right? And normally kill boxes are after chokes. It's where you can hit. So in Route 66, because of the high grounds here, you don't actually necessarily always choke. Like you could look to wall, one of these, I think there's an exit over there maybe. You could be looking to like wall this off and then just have your sort of Reinhardt just drop off the high ground and just run into them and like or pin in. But the thing is, a little risky, and the question is like, why do that when you can abuse this high ground that they can't get to? So instead, what you normally look to do here is you look to sort of abuse this kill box right over here. And when the enemy team pushes up and they have sort of their non-mobile squishes in here, like Bap, Mei, maybe even Cass, he's not flanking, then Mei will look for a wall. So Mei will look for a wall right over here, which will look to wall off the Reinhardt. And as soon as that happens, Ryan will drop and push. Lucio might look to boop and try and displace the Ryan more. Devo will look to help. Mei will just sort of pull from the high ground freeze. And then the Cass and Bap, who are normally really like squishies and like vulnerable, will stay on the high ground and sort of just shoot from above and get insane value. And this will make it like really safe for your non-mobile people, because the only person who's really engaging is a Reinhardt who's a tank, a Mei who has cryo and has a bit more HP. So it makes your life a lot better and it's easier. So this is a concept of using a kill box. Obviously this type of stuff can also be countered by doing like really good rotations. Like for example, an attacking team might do something where they send their team through here and try and clear this high ground, and then they flip the map and do something like that. I'm not gonna go too much into, you can even use Simtalia to get here and then they flip the map, but that hopefully you understand the concept of like this is how kill boxes work. Likewise on the earlier point about retakes, if you also think about it, if you lose, you win the first fight, you win the second fight, third fight, then you finally lose, your retake is going to be really smooth. Like coming up here, taking this gas, right? Then from here, you can stall right over here if you need to, or you can look to like pinch the enemy team. You can send your team here, send your cast late here, and you can look to pinch anyone up here. You could also retake like this, but that's not as good, I'd say. So there's a lot of good options you have for retakes. So that's the other thing I think that's also important that I haven't mentioned is normally when you're holding close like this, a lot of teams will sort of fumble the bag and or like not really approach this properly. Like they won't scout properly, they won't swap right away. They'll like push out in maybe a suboptimal comp, and if you just play fast and you understand the matchup and you understand how to look, where to look for your walls, when to push in, and you're aggressive, you'll get an early pick. You might catch them up by surprise too, and you just get an early pick, and then all of a sudden you won the first fight for free. Then they have to swap to a new comp. You already still have ult advantage, and they're on a new comp with very little ultimates. Win that fight too for free, and you can really frazzle people as well as you can sort of boom people too, because they're literally being camped in their spawn. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. The other thing I would mention is sometimes an enemy team might, put their tracer on cart. They might send a tracer on cart here and start pushing that cart. If that happens, it's really, really, really important that you look to just hard force the fight and win the fight really fast, or you maybe just put one person back to like soft contest the cart, so you don't worry about it too much. What I would say though, normally it's better just to go finish the fight and take the 65. Don't worry about the tracer. The cart's right over here. You can move a little bit further. And if needed, if you do need to back up and give up this choke because they have like a ball tracer and the ball tracer is constantly moving the cart, then you can always back up after you win the fight and like hold a further back choke. But winning the fight is inherently important because it gives you a natural ult advantage. Okay, let's move on here. So 2 other really fast topics I want to talk about. What to do if you're up 1 or down 1. I'm not gonna go too much into this, but if you lose somebody, it's really important you look for an immediate trade, or you essentially play slow for an ultimate and then look for a trade. But you're not going to play slow like, oh, we have like 50% to beat and then we're going to play for beat. No, it has to be like, 10%, 50%, and like you're doing stuff to help that person build ultimate so you can get value. So you're going to like look for an immediate trade, or you're going to look to play slow for an ultimate and then look for a trade. You do not want the fight to go long as they have spawn advantage. So you have to be fast. And if you do like kite slowly back and give them space, they will move cart and it'll make it harder sometimes to get 3 fights or 3 clean fights. So the opposite one, right? We just talked about what to do if you're down 1. Now, if you're up 1, what to do? Well, if you're up 1 in this situation, just make sure if you have HP and you have CDs, keep pushing hard and look to like punish them. But if you are low HP, right, and you have those CDs, don't keep pushing, because the enemy team can trade and kill you. Like if your Reinhardt's low and you keep pushing, because like let's say you kill the Reinhardt and your Reinhardt's like 100 HP and you keep pushing, then the enemy cast could stun your Reinhardt and just blow your Reinhardt up, and now you're down your Ryan, and that's going to be a lot harder, for you to hold spawn now without a Reinhardt. Still doable, but it's tricky. So just make sure that you don't trade if you don't need to. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is something a little bit different. I'm going to show you some cool stall tactics. One of them you definitely know. The other one, I'd be surprised if you know. So I'm going to start talking about the first one that I don't think you probably know. So this is a tactic I developed with some inspiration from the one from Dorado, where essentially what you do, there's an inside here, something like that. There's a mega in here. Essentially, you can do a very similar strat where you basically will run Ryan, Mei, Sigma, Lucio, Bap, and then maybe like a Cass. And you'll essentially just stop the cart. The cart will come up like right over here, and you'll sort of just stop the cart here. And you can use Maywall, you can cycle your shields, and you can just keep doing this for a really long time. And because this distance from entrance here and here is so long, the enemy team will essentially, if they want to spam, like get a Junkrat Pharah, they'll have to rotate all the way around here, and then they'll have to start spamming. And when they do that, because this distance is so long, you can then be like, ha ha ha, they're behind us, and they sent 3 people behind us. And then when that happens, you can instantly just speed forward, as long as you have a target to go on that's non-mobile and easy to kill. Speed forward, kill somebody, right? And then chill for a second. Maybe go wide here, wait for the Pharah to come, shoot the Pharah, then come back in and chill. So this is another cool stall tactic. It's worked a lot. I've definitely taken at least 2 minutes or 3 minutes off the clock, as well as built ultimates and forced enemy team to use ultimates. And then I've, had my team retake from high here with ult advantage, and then normally end up winning. Here you only really get 2 fights, but it's a different way to approach the first point. And if somebody doesn't know how to handle this right away, you can catch them off guard. Likewise, I think a lot of people are familiar with this one. That's where I got a little bit of inspiration from, where, there's 2 chokes here. You basically, again, run a very similar comp. You can run like Ryan, Sigma, Mei, Cass, Lucio, Bap. And essentially what you do is you sort of just chill here. You Ryan shield, then you Sigma shield, then you Mei wall. Normally, if your Ryan is, holding main here, then your Sigma will watch the opposite side. Same thing would happen here. If your Ryan's here, your Sigma is sort of watching the opposite side. And your Bap just pounding heals. And here it's a bit riskier and it's a bit more difficult, I'd say, because the area of effect in here is, the area in there is very small, and these chokes, it's very easy for someone to go from here to here. Like, for example, I'll tell people to counter by playing up here and sort of just doing damage and then dropping like with Ashe and then looking to be aggressive, and then if someone pushes you, just coach get gun back up. So it's just like a little bit easier for the attacking team to counter because of how close the chokes are, and it's easier for the off angle, but it's still definitely a good area. And because it's a bit more enclosed, like your Bap will technically get more heals and window faster, or preferably play with Moira might be a bit better. But if Bap's a bit safer, if you want to like consider playing for second and third, if you want to keep Bap. And that's something you should always think about when you're approaching this, is you should always think about playing a composition which will inherently give you value, as you go on later in the map as well. Or if you need to make swaps, it's minimal swaps. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a very brief talk about spawn camping. If you guys liked it, make sure to leave some notes in the comments. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I really, 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 really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great day.